Bangkok, the nerve centre of Thailand. More than 10 million people call the capital home. Life is loud and fast. Even locals find it hard to keep up with the pace here, but in the land of smiles, it's all put on hold for the tourists. Tourism is the single most important factor in the economy. International guests financially propping up a nation. And this is the Thailand they come to see. This country has clung to its many traditions in the face of a modern world, and the Thais are only too happy to put it on show, especially for visitors. Entertainment's not hard to find in the big city. The Rose Gardens Cultural Spectacular is a popular spot for foreigners. 1,500 people view it every day. If you're looking for a little more culture, the intricate Buddhist temples beckon. The ancient structures decorated in gold and precious gems are just breathtaking. And then there's the food. An assortment of traditional cuisine can be found on nearly every corner. Crickets, frogs and moths tempting daring sightseers. Welcome to beautiful Thailand. This is my second trip to this country and I've merely touched the surface of the delights it has to offer. The brilliant beaches, the exquisite temples and of course the fine food. But I want to show you a side of Thailand you probably haven't seen. In fact, you may not even know it exists. Thailand is fighting a major epidemic of AIDS. Every 3¼ minutes a baby is born with the virus, thousands more are orphaned. Over the next few days we're going to visit 2 orphanages critical in dealing with the problem and caring for the victims left in its wake. Come with me on a journey to northern Thailand. This is Suk. She is HIV positive. She's been living at this orphanage in Khon Kaen for 3 years. Like many of the children here, Suk was rescued from an almost certain fate. At the age of 15 months, her tiny body was starting to show the effects of the virus. Her liver and spleen were enlarged, she was undersized, and on top of that, she'd contracted tuberculosis. The workers feared the worst.
Suk was a very sick little girl. In fact, there were many times when we thought that she would die. She was just so sick and malnourished. But God has done a beautiful work in her life. She is just so healthy now and full of life. And although being malnourished at that age, it has had its effect on her. She's a little bit slow at learning, but she's a delight and we're very happy to have her here.
While Suk still carries the virus, the transformation of this 3-year-old has been nothing short of a miracle. Rob and Jean Dunk know too well the harsh realities of this condition. They face it every day. This Australian couple founded Mercy International, the organisation operating this home for babies with AIDS. It's the only orphanage like it in the province.
Like several years ago, the reports were well over 500 people dying a month with AIDS-related diseases. So the situation is here quite serious.
Khon Kaen is situated in northeast Thailand. It's the 4th largest city in the country. Like any other slice of suburbia in Thailand, there's the rich and there's the poor. The contrast often unbelievable. There's a limited social security system in Thailand, so for most, if you don't work, you don't eat. People will do anything to keep it from coming to that. When all else fails, there's a living to be found on the streets, selling everything from food to clothes, even your own body. The sex industry here has been largely blamed for Thailand's AIDS problem. Some would say it's driven by the need created by Westerners. Others argue it's purely Thai culture.
There was no respect for people, there was no respect for the young lives in a country where people are struggling to stay alive. It's just sad that so many girls have to resort to prostitution to gain an income.
Many fathers would feel it is their duty to take their son when he turns 14 to the local brothel to make a man of him, and then oft times a father would celebrate the birth of his child by shouting all of his mates to the local brothel. It doesn't mean that this culture is more promiscuous than ours. However, because of the lack of the knowledge of contraceptives and because of other aspects of the lifestyle, then possibly the spread of AIDS is quite serious, combined with drug use and other health problems.
The Western world is largely growing desensitised to the images flashing across your screen. Some people may be turning off the television even as we speak. I know because I've done it myself. The real shock factor in this country is that it's not just a handful of kids living on rubbish dumps that need help. The AIDS problem is now so big, thousands of middle-class children have become the helpless victims of this epidemic. Bo is one such child. She's been here for 3 weeks. Both her parents have died from AIDS.
She has a grandmother and 2 aunties, and they're quite reasonably well off. They're middle-class people, and they have children of their own. And of course, when Bo's mother and father died, the aunties took responsibility of her. But the fear of AIDS is just so huge that these 2 aunties were just so fearful that their children would get AIDS from this little girl.
Fear grips the community, but not here. The only indication children are different is at mealtime. Because AIDS victims are prone to infection, special diets are needed. It's colour-coded especially. Infected toddlers eat from a pink bowl, the rest green. This centre has been in operation for a year now. With a reported 550 babies are born with AIDS a day in Thailand, the need for these facilities is growing. 22 children from the age of 7 months to 10 years live in this home. 9 of them have AIDS, 7 are clear, and 6 of them haven't been tested. This is baby Moses. 12 months ago, he was rescued from a mother who planned to sell him. Failing that, she threatened to dump him at the tip. I was here a year ago when he was brought to this centre, and it's amazing to think just where this beautiful little boy would be if it wasn't for the work of Mercy International.
Mommy. Yes? Yes, honey? Mommy.
At the age of 32, Palmini Angnoi has been a mother figure to almost 100 children. As the executive manager of the House of Mercy Foundation, she's seen the change that takes place whenever a child is brought here.
Look very sad, you know, and just no life, you know, like a dead. But now, big smile, big love.
Life in the orphanage is conducive to emotional healing. Thai staff work hard at generating a normal home setting with each child having an assigned mother figure. There are plenty of laughs, plenty of hugs and plenty of playtime. That doesn't mean children get out of preschool or their daily sleeps though. Once a day, everyone is gathered for a special time of prayer. That's when miracles happen. Santi was the first AIDS baby brought to the orphanage 5 years ago. He's recently been tested for HIV and the results say he's free.
Many Christian organisations in underprivileged countries now that are working with AIDS, they are discovering that if you bring a baby into a clean environment and they have good nutritional food and lots of love and prayer, that they're saying between 70% and 86% of these children will revert and throw off the virus and live perfectly normal lives. So Santi has done that.
But even if they don't, we can give them the love that they want, human love, and also we can give them the love of God as well, and give them a really good quality life. A number of children that came to us at death's door, and we've had them now for 2 or 3 years, they should have died. The first few months we had them, we just had to pray and believe and bring them through, and today they've got such a great quality of life.
Rob, Jean and Parwini can see that their work is bearing fruit. There's clearly hope for these children and so many others like them in Thailand. Overseas adoption is not an avenue Mercy is exploring. Instead of battling the endless red tape, it wants to see youngsters in this program contribute to a better Thailand.
We are here to seek to develop another generation when many, many children are suffering and dying and don't have good education and good health. Well, we want to see the children we invest in contribute to a great future for Thailand.
3 hours from Kongen, Mercy International is building a massive complex in Phetchabun solely devoted to AIDS victims. The plan is to construct 8 large buildings, each able to hold up to 24 youngsters. Toddlers from the AIDS home in Kongen will eventually be moved here.
So we'll work with shift work, day staff, night staff, cleaning staff, staff responsible for washing. They'll all be Thai people. That's the way we've started the program.
It's very important that they're Thai?
Well, we believe so.
Hygiene will play a crucial part, and it's not just staff who are most in danger of infection. The big risks are for the children themselves. With their immune systems already so damaged, it's imperative they live in spotless surroundings. So how many children are you going to be having for, Rod?
Well, with the 4 buildings we're putting up, our ideas have been looking at 80 to 100 children. But we'll just have to see how our space goes and how the management goes. The children will be sort of filtered after they're 18 months of age to decide, once we ascertain whether they have retained the HIV positive status or not, then there'll be a filtering program for those who have become negative, which is what we're aiming for in our management program. They'll be moved into a caring place away from the kids who are still HIV positive, and we'll make room for others.
Children who become HIV negative will make their home at Ban Meta, a youth hostel just metres away from the new complex. Nit's been living here for 7 years. She came from northern Thailand with her 2 brothers and younger sister. She may look like a normal 20-year-old, but this smile hides a painful past. A few years ago, while in her hometown to renew her registration papers, her mother accused Mercy staff of stealing her children. When that was proven false, she tried a different tactic in front of welfare workers.
Then the mother changed her story and said, I am a very sick lady. I need Noi, who was the younger. I need Noi to come and look after me. And little Nid, who can't read or write, but she's a really precious little young woman now, because she's now 20. She's very precious, and she said, no Mum, you leave Noi here, I will look after you, because she knew that if the mother took Noi, she would immediately put Noi into a brothel and get money from the businessman who ran the brothel, and Nid said, no Mum, I will stay and look after you.
That night, Nid found herself sold to a pimp and locked in a brothel for the night.
Being a little fighter that she is, she looked around everywhere and to see how she could get out of the room, and she found that there was a window quite high up in the room. I don't know how she did it, but I just feel that God helped her. She was able to get out of that window, jumped down, and she just took off in the middle of the night. And as she was running through the village, she found a bicycle in somebody's yard, and she took that and began to ride the 100 kilometres back to Chiang Mai. A car came past and didn't see her and clipped her and threw her off the bike, and she landed in a bit of a ditch. The pastor from Chiang Mai who recommended that we take these 4 children in originally, as he was coming up around the road where Nit was knocked off her bike, Nit sort of stood up and shook herself and was wondering what had happened to her, and this pastor drove past, saw the bike first and then saw Nit.
She's been here ever since.
Hello, how are you?
So we don't hunt for the children. You could gather children just like this if you wanted to. We don't hunt for children. We believe that this is God's project, and we say, Lord, you bring the children here that you want.
Ban Meter was built in 1986. It's situated 40 kilometres from Phetchabun, the largest settlement in the province. About 30,000 Thais live within the city limits, with thousands more in the surrounding rural community. It's from these farming outskirts most of the children come. While some children are orphans, the majority are rescued from extreme poverty. Many come from large rural families living in appalling conditions like this. Often one parent has died and the other is left to care for the remainder of the family. With little food and scarce money often pushes people over the edge. Poverty hit Boy's family hard. His father deserted his pregnant mother when he was very young. Without a job or qualifications, she could not see how she was going to support 2 young children.
So she said to Boy, we are going to drink poison and we will die, but our next life will be much better. And Boy, being only 6 years of age, he was quite terrified, and he just ran off out of the house and into the bush. And he stayed out all night. And the next morning he thought, well, his mother would have come to her senses, so he went back to the house, but his mother was dead on the floor. And for 24 hours he just laid beside his mother and just put his arms around his dead mother and just laid there for a good 24 hours.
Neighbours found Boy and brought him here.
He's now 17 and he's an absolute delight. He's a wonderful young man. We're very proud of him actually, and he's now studying to be an electrician, and gets a little upset each Mother's Day because they make a big thing of Mother's Day here in this country, and he does have a cry every Mother's Day.
Like many of the others, God has done a great healing in Boy's heart in the 9 years he's been at Mercy. While Christianity is not pushed onto the children, they're expected to attend church every week.
And God has met many of them.
And as they come to know him, we disciple them. We teach them to know him and to walk with him. But, you know, we have naughty kids here. It's like anywhere else. We've had problems.
We had 2 boys who got on drugs, and you know, and we really worked hard to help those 2 boys, but they didn't want to be helped.
So where are they now?
Oh, they went back to their mother, who was very, very poor, and sadly one of them got into strife and he's in prison, to be honest. But we've got some sad stories, but we've got some wonderful stories too.
43 children aged from 5 to 19 years call Ban Meter home. The living quarters is split into 4 areas for the little girls, the little boys, the teenage girls and the teenage boys. Udom's in charge of looking after the teenage boys. He came here from a poor family who couldn't afford to send him to school. Now this 24-year-old has a teacher's degree in his name. How do you find being a father to 9 boys at 24 years of age?
Oh, I like this work because I asking God before. I asking God before I become work here, and ask Him, God, please show me what's the plan that you have in my life. And after that, God showed me this house. Because I pray for this house before that I want to working here, and God answered.
So you feel like God's led you to be here?
Yes.
Excellent. And so teenage boys, they can get rowdy, they have hormones. How do you deal with all of that?
Yes, we teach them every night. And after that, they're better because they obey. They are good boys.
They're good boys.
Yeah.
Like many of the children who grew up here, Udom has chosen to stay on with Mercy as a worker. That's always an option when the time comes to choose a career.
Well, they're our family. So as long as they want to be here, then they can stay with us. And so, you know, if they have the ability, we give them tertiary education as well. Certainly, we give them vocational education, and so this is their family. This is their home. And many of our workers now were originally our children. And as we're opening new works, that's happening more and more.
Teams are a big part of life in the orphanage. This group's just flown in from Bangkok. For many, this is the first time they've ever travelled overseas. And when they arrive, all they want to do is meet the people they've heard so much about. For the duration of their stay, they'll be involved with the day-to-day routine in the orphanage, and they can't wait. Children wake at about 5:30 in the morning. There's always a list of chores to be done before they board the bus to go to school in Phetchabun. Hours later, the visitors rise.
You've brought each and every one of us here for a certain purpose, God.
After some morning prayer, everyone's ready to start the day.
So who wants to paint?
With so much construction work going on, physical labour is on the agenda for today.
So tell me, did you think you'd be coming over here and doing manual labour?
No, not at all. It's this is going to be a baby house for around about 20 HIV babies, so it's going to a good cause.
So you're willing to do that for this?
Most definitely.
The majority of these visitors are from Border Town in the southeast of South Australia. A lot of them still attend high school.
Well, must beat school though.
Yeah.
It's certainly exposing the young people to a different culture, a different lifestyle and different values. And we're finding that that's snowballing. What they're learning is snowballing into their churches and into their schools. And people are getting a better understanding of really how well off we are in Australia.
Yeah.
My term is how fat we are. We're fat in our wallets and we're fat in our bellies, and we're fat with our lifestyle.
Rod and Carolyn Brady are in charge of overseeing the many teams that come here. This is their second year in Thailand. In that time, they've seen the number of visiting missionaries go through the roof.
They have become an invaluable asset for the numbers that are coming now. We look at this year and we see that the calendar's full between September and November already. We see groups that came last year as one are now coming this year as three or three older groups and younger groups. We're finding that last year we had one school team come of senior students. This year they're sending two, and there are other schools looking at coming as well.
Teams are welcomed with open arms, especially by the children. Little Jupjang's been here for just 10 days. Her parents were both killed in a terrible car accident. Clearly traumatised and without knowing a word of Thai, she hasn't left Marianne's side for hours. Understandably, it's a battle just to get her to smile.
The little girl that does this job normally does the whole lot on her own. 3 or 4 of us are doing it.
Arthur, Steve and Paul have been assigned other duties. Management ecstatic to discover a trio of welders in its midst.
There's going to be an influx of kids, so they need some new beds.
Sure, and you know how to do this?
Well, thanks to our tech teachers back at Bordertown High, Mr. Walker and Mr. Tonkin, we have good skills to be able to do this bedding.
You'll get an A for that one.
Definitely.
It's good to actually be able to use skills that you've learnt back home for some good over here and to help some kids out.
Sure. Paul, you're a shearer. How are you finding this?
Well, I've had plenty of practice sweating, and that comes in a great deal of handy over here. It's really good. It's very rewarding, and it's nice to be able to do something useful.
And even after a long, hard day, the team wants anything but to sit down When the children come home, it's playtime. Meanwhile in the kitchen, relaxing is not on the cards for Nook. The 19-year-old must prepare tea for anything up to 90 people. On Friday nights, the dining hall becomes church. That's an experience in itself.
Just amazing to see how happy they are and just how much love they have in their heart for other people. Like you just have to walk around, they'll come up to you, give you a hug. It's just great.
How does that make you feel?
I guess it makes you look at yourself and think, well, maybe I should be a bit more thankful for what I've been given, because they've had nothing in the past and now they're just so happy and have got so much love in their hearts.
It's really something that you know that is really God, because there's no way that you can explain someone that has come from such a background as many of these kids have, taken away from their families or parted from their parents in dramatic situations, and God has just come and turned their lives around.
It's been a humbling experience just to sort of relax and just, you know, don't be so selfish with our lives. Just watch them and learn from them. It's been great.
If there's one thing I've learned about this place, there's always time for more fun, especially if it means delaying bedtime. Over in the girls' dorm, things are a little more out of control.
I'm going to dip you now. I'm going to dip you now. Oh!
Rani and Nit showing us a few moves of their own.
I think just all the children here at the orphanage, just like how beautiful they are, just all their smiles and that, how they just love you and hug you and just really love you just for coming and being with them.
Even Carly's been able to get a smile from Drip Jane.
But to watch her opening up in a week and see her smiling and accepting love and affection, like it's really uplifting. But it's heartbreaking because there is so much sadness and it's very tragic.
And I say to the teams, you make a difference in the lives of the children. You give them a reason to get out of bed every morning because they're anticipating who's new today. Who's got a camera that I can open and find out how it works? Who can I climb on? Life's an adventure.
It's not that expensive. You'll have a really good time. It's rewarding. Your life will be changed. I would encourage anyone who's thinking about it, stop thinking, start doing. It doesn't cost that much. And you'll remember it for the rest of your life. You don't need a camera. You'll have those memories forever.
Many people are simply overwhelmed with the work Mercy is doing. Rob and Jean will tell you it's a product of years of prayer and hard work, and they say all the due credit goes to God.
Everything that you see today is a miracle, and it just goes on, miracle after miracle.
The journey started in the mid-80s. Rob was pastoring a city-based church in the heart of Brisbane when he felt the calling to focus on mission work.
I used to stand each day in front of a world map and pray for the nations, because I believe God had called me to be a missions pastor and to have a missions church. And I was praying one day when suddenly I had this vision of a children's village, actually. I wouldn't have called it that, but a children's village like we have here today. And it began as simple as that.
Rob and Jean prayed about their next step for 2 years.
Then it was a miracle, actually, that began it. We were able to bring a slum boy to Australia for operations and on his legs, and that really started the whole program, opened the doors for us into Thailand, and here we are today.
12 children were taken into Mercy's first home in Bangkok. Rob and Jean were determined that's where the program would be based until they were notified of available land near Phetchabun. The trip to check it out has become somewhat infamous.
We got dirtier because it was the vehicle was sucking all this dust in, and we were sweaty and hot, and I was tired, and I was really getting very, very angry. So that when at last, after many hours, we arrived about 3 kilometres from this land, we picked up the owner and another young man to help interpret, and we came up the road here, the last 3 kilometres, which was a horrific road, still is, by the way, and then we turned onto this property. I just couldn't believe where he had brought us. When we pulled up in the cloud of dust, I threw the back of the utility open, I slid out, and I was just ready to tell this young man what I thought. And when my feet hit the ground and this dust rose up around me, I heard God speak, and he said, "This is my land." And immediately all the anger just dissipated out of me. And I'd heard from God. This was his land.
And so I got out in the dust and everything, but as soon as my feet hit the ground, God said to me, "This is my land." And I was in awe because I just looked around and God was there.
And so started the mammoth task of building Van Meter. The 7-acre property is a far cry from what was originally here. Back then there was no electricity, no water, and only one tree. These days Van Meter is buzzing, its most prominent feature smiling children. News of this home has travelled far and wide, so much so, truckloads of families arrive unannounced with parents pleading with workers to take their children.
Anybody that came here with children and they told a sad story, we would take those children in. And over the years we have learnt that a lot of these parents have just wanted us to educate their children. And so when we've educated the children, they've come back and they've taken the children back. We have learnt our lesson and we're a bit more selective. So the #1 children we take in now are AIDS orphans, where their mum and dad have died of AIDS.
The decision is often nothing short of heartbreaking.
I'm really a miracle person. I come from a very poor family and I grew up, it's not far from Panmeta area, and I just went to school for 6 years.
Pawini views her occupation as a gift from God. After just 6 years of education, she knew she was destined to work in the tobacco fields alongside her family. A farm worker until she was 22, a remarkable twist of fate saw Pawini take a job that would alter her path forever. She accepted a position as a maid for an Australian couple, the first couple to set up the Mercy Orphanage in Bangkok.
After that, about 4 months, I become to Christian, and after that I just feel really exciting what Mercy doing, you know, and help poor people and poor children to go to school, and make me very exciting about that.
It's a decision that's been a little hard to swallow for her parents. Obligation drives family relations. On top of that, Pawini's mother is in leadership in the Buddhist temple. These days, though, they're starting to appreciate the enormity of what she's doing.
She proud of what I'm doing, but she not feel anything Christian or not Christian. But she said, I doing something is a bit different from they do. She's very appreciative.
For Pawini, it seems she always knew she was destined for a different life.
It's very, very hard life. And because we come from a big family, 9 children, and very poor. But in my feeling, in my spirit, in my heart, I just want to do more and want to do something different from what they do or something.
So you didn't feel that this was supposed to be your life?
No, I'm not enjoy it. Because I think and I hope something more different than this.
Finally, Pawini will see her dream of educating poor children realised.
There are many small schools, many government schools in the area. We're hoping to make ours a little bit different in that Christian education will be part of our curriculum, but also we're putting a stronger emphasis on English. We hope to be able to put beside the Thai teacher a Western teacher, someone who speaks English, and have them work team teaching.
Eventually, it will be equipped for primary and high school students. And here's the best bit. It'll be a private institution requiring no fees, making it affordable for everyone.
We think that 12 months ago there was no school, there was no thought, there was no money, no plan down. Our director and manager, Rob and Pawini, have been travelling across from our centre in Kongen one day, and their story goes like this, that independently, as they were coming through the mountains behind us, a thought came to their head.
And suddenly I heard God say in my spirit, clear as could be, it's time for the school. And I just sat there and I thought, God, what do you mean it's time for the school? And then I hear Pawini's voice just saying, Rob, I believe it's time for the school.
Also at that time, Rob's wife, Jean, in London, was walking through the suburb where she was staying with her daughter, and the same thought, same idea, voice came to her head, it's time to start a school. When that was aired later, there was a realisation that perhaps this was a direction that they were being given, but didn't know how it was to happen. Shortly afterwards, a retiring businessman from Sydney made contact with Rob and said, I want to come over and see what's happening.
He looked at me and said, Rob, I've got a large amount of money, in excess of $100,000, that I want to give to your work here.
Mercy survives on the generosity of Christian churches, business people and individuals. Every project is made possible through donations. Every child's needs met by 2 sponsors. Management is also looking to establish a team of 1,000 people to contribute $10 a month for running costs, food, formula and petrol. With so much happening in Phetchabun and Kongen, you'd think Mercy has enough on its plate. But so great is her passion to save AIDS orphans, management is looking to expand in every direction possible.
And then we saw what is happening across the nation, and we're just feeling God is saying it's time to do more and more and more.
Prayer, far north Thailand. 600,000 people live in the city. The area is well known for its rice, soybeans, tobacco and vast quantities of teak. It's also famous for being the worst AIDS-affected province in the country.
The bulk of the main buildings will be in there, looking across the valley.
Mercy's recently purchased 12 acres of land 17 kilometres from Prayer. It's just down the road from a new university, a primary and junior high school, and not to mention the agricultural centre next door, the perfect position for a new children's home.
We're planning to start work on this land, and we will be building a whole new children's village for AIDS orphans. There are many of them in this area. We're probably talking, in this province, we're probably talking of 1,000 such children.
Rob, Jean and Pawini are praying for the donation of $250,000 to develop this block. They want to see the program up and running in Prayer pronto, and they're not the only ones.
In this region, is more than the population is more than 5 million people, which is no baby homes. So Mercy Foundation will be the first baby homes in this area.
I bet the government is excited about that.
Oh yes, the government's quite exciting with this program.
Dr. Korovich is an oral surgeon in Prayer. His department runs a free dental service for underprivileged people. His contact with the poor and public knowledge of his affiliation with Mercy has seen him constantly called upon by needy children. Payuan is an AIDS orphan. Both of her parents died in the past few years. It's not known whether she's living with the virus or not. She stays with her 66-year-old grandfather. Apart from tending to a few cows, he is unemployed and clearly feeling the burden of bringing up a 9-year-old.
He would like to take care of the kid until his life can afford. But if he can't afford, he will let she go maybe with us or with somebody.
It's children like this Rob hopes to give a better future, and he knows there are hundreds like her.
In the paper just recently, the word was that every 7 minutes there's someone dying from AIDS-related illness in the nation of Thailand. So, while we've just been visiting this home with this little girl whose parents have both died, while we've been here, there's probably another 3 or 4 parents who died somewhere in Thailand and have left children in the same position.
Since 1987, we have found the first case of AIDS in Prague. Since then, the number of cases increased rapidly. So it's a major communicable disease in Thailand and in Prague.
The Prayer Public Health Office has a department dedicated to AIDS detection, treatment and prevention. It's mostly used by prostitutes, but Dr. Anakamani knows the problem isn't just confined to the sex industry. Records show since 1987, around 3,350 AIDS patients have been picked up by the system. That figure's grossly underestimated though. He says the number should be 10,000. Research also indicates around 100 children are infected with AIDS each year in Prayer. It's hoped education can turn things around.
The major target is our youth, young teenager. That's the risk group that can be infected by this virus. And the second role is try to improve our standard of treatment.
In the past, the Thai government has been very careful to protect its image. It's finally choosing to recognise the need for funding. Just last year, it awarded $1 million to the province for AIDS relief by non-government organisations. Sadly, there weren't any operating here at the time, so the money was forfeited. AIDS sufferers who are detected are given a little financial help. Monthly government handouts for victims' families equate to 500 baht, that's 20 Australian dollars. It's barely enough, prompting calls for homes and counselling teams. A food run and counselling are avenues Mercy is looking to pursue once it's set up in Prayer. It's good news for little ones like Parinya. This 2-year-old was born without an anus. He's in desperate need for colostomy, as he's excreting faeces from his stomach. He also has Down syndrome. He lives with his parents' friends. They are very poor. It's late in the afternoon and he hasn't had any milk since this morning.
The milk that we bring this afternoon will be next milk for this boy.
This boy requires special help that Mercy isn't able to give.
He needs a lot of maybe some physio with his legs and that to strengthen them a little bit more so he can walk.
We're challenged. We've got to go away and look at the situation, think about it, pray about it and work through what is best for the child.
But just how you tackle situations like this is very delicate. There are many schools of thought when it comes to taking children from their relatives.
If we try to have the house like this in many provinces, they may take the children from their home. So what they try is that they try to keep the children in the community so that they can live together growing up and not make much problem in the community in the future.
Where it's simply a matter of relatives doing their duty, honouring their obligation or saving face, then to me they may have all the money in the world, but it's not going to be good for that child. On the other hand, if the family is very, very poor but there's tremendous love flowing, then to take that child out of that family situation, could be devastating and wrong.
This kind of disease, they can stay with the family, with the society nicely, but they need some people caring for the problems. But the problems, we don't have a good team for that.
Some people are suggesting that there's a child being orphaned every 3 or 4 minutes. We're talking about a lot of children that need homes, and they need human love, and they need divine love, and they need opportunity to start a good life, and they need the opportunity to have a good education. I think the work we're doing is very, very important.
When I first came here, I expected to board an emotional roller coaster. Many of the children's stories are nothing short of horrific and still move me to tears. But after visiting these orphanages, we begin to realise there is hope. These children are being given a bright future, and their smiles are a living testimony to the work God is doing in their lives. If you've been challenged by the work Mercy International is doing and want more information or desire to sponsor a child, please call the number for the Sydney head office now appearing on your screen. It's been an amazing journey over the last few days. Thank you for joining us on A Heart of a Child.
Whose child is this? Is she yours or is she mine? Who does she belong to? And who can she call her own? But I can see in this heart of a child that all she wants is somebody to reach out to. And I can see in this lonely smile that all she needs is love. He's a father to the fatherless. He's the giver of life. He wipes the tears and the joy he brings. Who can take it away? 'Cause he's a father. Where will he go? What will he do? Where is home now? Where will he lay his head? Or will the pain in my wipes a